Hi, everyone. I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 165 with Zebadiah. When I originally scheduled this poem with Zebadiah, I imagined that this would be fortuitous and celebratory on this day. So that speaks to my optimism. Um, I so it's not that. It's not a celebration. It's it's the other thing. But I am still because I think it is important to always, but especially right now, to me, to focus on the people and the things that I love. And I love doing
Hi,
these
Allison.
poems. Hi, Zeb. And I am grateful to be doing one today because this stuff
Yeah,
matters. So here we are.
yes. I feel like we need it
Um,
today more than ever.
right? I was just saying that when I
Yes.
scheduled it, I was like, oh, it's going to be so
I
celebratory.
know,
It's
that's what
going
I
to be a great.
thought too. Yeah. Uh,
Okay, so no, but
yes.
I've just been reading a lot of things, talking about love and hope, and those are the things that
Yes.
keep me going, and
We need
and
that
those are
right
the
now.
things I want to focus my energy on because um, we haven't lost everything, and the things we haven't lost are worth fighting for.
Yes.
So we will do that.
There's still so many great communities.
Yes, yes, and
Yes.
wonderful people in all of these states and communities,
Yes.
and
Doing good work.
yes, yes, and it's so important to remember as we look at the map and we see red and blue that it's far more
Yes.
complex than that.
So much more complicated, which is hard to remember in
Yeah,
the grand scheme of
yeah,
things, but
it's real hard.
it's very stressful
I
when
mean,
you're
there are
watching election.
moments
When you're watching
I
election night
can't,
coverage, you're like, oh, this is a
I
lot.
can't. Yeah, 2016 broke me of election night
Yes.
coverage. I have to guard my mental health and my peace, and
Yes. It was so
it's
different in 2020 too because it was such a long waiting
yeah.
period, and it was kind of like you were really anticipating for days and days, and it was just so soon with this.
I know. I don't think we were I don't think we were expecting that or thinking it would be that clear cut, but um,
Yes,
it is. So here we are. Well, thank you for joining me,
yes,
Zeb,
yeah.
and
Thank you for inviting
thank
me.
you to thank you to Grace
Yes,
Tolution
Grace is
for
amazing.
connecting us. Yes, she is a real voice of, I think, hope and resilience, and
Oh, for sure.
I really appreciated when she joined me and her writing and just her general. I mean, her name is very fitting. I think she has a lot of grace
Yes.
and gives that to people. And
Oh, yes.
she gave it to me. So I'm
Yes.
grateful for her. So
So great. I love her. She's been so wonderful.
yeah, so she was a teacher of yours, right?
She
Correct?
was well. She came to the I so I went to Indiana University for my undergrad, and she came to the IU Writers Conference
Mhm.
there, and she was there for like 4 days. But she was just the most wonderful like instructor. Her
Yeah.
I feel like her exercises were just so helpful. She led us in your poem for one of the exercises, the Where I'm From,
Yeah.
and so that was really cool. And she did another exercise using like Roskay's Book of Delights
I
for another
love that
poetry
book.
exercise. And she was just so wonderful, and she was so kind to me and all the other interns who were there too. And it was just such a great experience, like working with her for those couple of days.
It's so important to be kind to everyone. And I
Oh, it
think that
totally
she
is.
embodies that. Some people don't. So I'm grateful
Yeah,
for the people who do. And just for clarification, it's not my poem. I know you know that, but I just always
yeah,
want
yeah.
it. It's George L. Lyon's poem, Where I'm From, who I am friends with and very grateful for her friendship. And I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
even create the prompt. She told me a man named Fred First did all those years ago, and then
Oh,
different
wow.
ones have
Okay.
circulated over time. And I think George Ella's generosity of her poem and her work is very inspiring to me.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I know that
yeah.
it's very inspiring to me because I think it shows like how if you are generous with your work and your words and your love, it reaches a lot of people, and when you
Yeah.
hold it tight and you're scarce, it doesn't have the same effect. So,
Oh, for sure. I think people just need to know that they're not alone in the world. I
yeah,
think that's why writing is so powerful. I think
yeah,
especially like short form writing like this that can be so easily shared is so essential, especially in social media age. Because sometimes you just need just that little boost of just something to get you through the
it's
day.
true. It's true. Some of the little things I've read this morning, especially the ones first thing this morning, were very helpful to me, and my algorithm is
Yeah.
is refined to show me those things.
Yes.
So good for me
We all
for putting all that time
do.
into my
I know. I feel like I
algorithm.
checked this morning. Like the first things I checked were like the writers that I follow. I was like, I need to know what the writers that I follow are
Right.
saying right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I've said it many times, like writing has saved my life. Like I have not struggled with suicidal thoughts, but I have definitely felt alone and hopeless. And yeah, writing reaches across time and space and to tell me that like, oh, this isn't new, which can be
Yeah.
sad because you sort of wish
Yeah.
it was new, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, others have lived and survived
Yeah.
and written about it. And in my sadness, I do think of all there are more voices now than there ever have been, and that gives me comfort.
Oh yes, and it's so easy. It's so easily. I mean, there's so many bad things about social media in so many
Yeah,
ways that it's made us into worse people. But I think that it's also been great for giving so many creative people a way to
yeah,
reach people that they never would have, and reach
yeah,
people with their words, and people who just really need that.
yeah, and connect with people. I mean, I wouldn't know you,
Yeah, yeah,
so I mean,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
something I'm reminded of every week. I do a poem. I mean, yes, some of these people are my friends, but I mean, we're on 165. I've connected with a
yeah,
lot of people that I never would have connected with, and I actually was exchanging emails with Georgella, and I was saying that it's
yeah.
been such a joy. Like this has been the best excuse to connect with people and hear their stories, which is something that has always been of interest to me, but it's a little tricky to just go up to strangers.
It is hard. Yeah, because you want to be able to break that barrier immediately. Be like, tell me like what your real story is. Like, no, don't talk about the weather. Tell me what your real
Right.
story is.
hmm Yeah, but also with safe people, and so this
Yeah,
is also a
exactly.
sort of like thing, a hurdle you have to jump, a little hurdle,
Yes.
like, okay, you have to be a little vulnerable and because it is, I don't want everyone's story. If I don't feel safe, I can't really listen.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
I want to feel safe. So
Yes, I
I
totally
do.
get that. Yes.
That's good.
It's so great.
So would you like to read your poem?
Yeah, I
It's
totally can.
beautiful.
Yes, I totally can read it. Okay. I am from Go Fish and Veggie Tales, from Mish Marsha's love and the dirt that healed the blind man. I am from a love born from Fort Wayne Bible College, from the house a few doors down from its shell. I am from Bible clubs and vacation Bible school, from memory verses and Jesus loves me. I am from bookcases filled with Bibles and commentaries, from foreign characters in notebooks and on chalkboards. I am from soup kitchens and food drives, from to the least of these. I am from Easter morning, from promises waiting to be fulfilled. I am also from pro-life and Revelation's wrath. I am from the culture against culture. I am from fear of the stranger, from us versus them. I am from policy over character, from right over love. I am from the Bible says, from an abandonment of the gray. I am from painful realizations, from grieving the living. I am from alienation and the wrong path. I am from fading community. I am from a complicated past, but I am looking for a new path. I am from a tarnished legacy, but I am not alone in this wilderness. I know where I'm from, but I often don't know where I'm going. I know I'm breaking free, but I'm worried I'll lose something too. I may be from twisted scriptures and conditional love, but I'm also from warm hugs and shared recipes. I am from practicing over preaching, from hope hiding on bookshelves and in strange letters. I am from the tan brick house, from the cicadas' deafening songs. I am from cookies for the neighbors, from those whose arms are always open. Thank you.
It feels very apropos this day after the
Yeah,
election,
I was totally
because
not
you've
planning for
gone,
this to like fall like this.
yeah, because you've gone on your own journey,
Oh yeah,
obviously, from your poem. And I mean, a lot of it really struck me, but from Right Over Love was hit me
yeah,
hard because that's something someone said to me at some point, like, do we want to be right or do we want to be
yeah,
happy was the word
yeah.
that was used. And it's something I think about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
It's
I'm
something
not
I've
interested
definitely.
in being right.
Yeah, I feel like life is too short to have to worry about being right all the time. I'm like,
What
there's so
does
many
it
more important things in
mean?
life to worry about.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
And it's
many
so subjective.
more important connections to make. And I think that if you're so worried about being right all the time, then you kind of
Oh. I lost you. Did you get a text?
My dad called me even after I told him that I was on Facebook. Even after I told him I was on Instagram Live and it would be available.
I'm like, I
It
lost you for
happens.
a second. You got a text or a call. Um, if you turn it off, it won't do that. It shouldn't
Yes,
do that.
I
Like
think
if
I
you
muted
turn
it.
off the, yeah.
Yes,
Um, because I've had times when I'm doing these, my phone is like blowing up, and I'm like,
I know.
stop.
Yes, I
Uh,
told my dad that I was doing an Instagram Live at 2, and he evidently forgot. It happens though.
um, yes, it does. I also am just, I was emotional thinking about at the end of your poem, like it seems like there's some about estrangement or things not the community not being what it once was, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
something that I've lived through, and it's not because of religious reasons but just familial reasons, and it's really painful. I'm sorry
it
that
is
you're having to live
painful.
through that.
Thank you. And I think it's been. I think it was hard waking up this morning and thinking about doing this because I think like, it just brings back so many memories and so many things. I think that the Trump years have really put us through a lot, and it's put us
Mm-hmm.
through things that I don't think we anticipated as far as like losing family,
Yeah,
not losing family, but losing those
yeah,
connections with family because of valuing things other than just family and being around the people that we love. And I think that's been really hard to think about, and it's hard to think about the loss of community too because I think that's one of the I mean we already went through a loss of community in COVID, obviously, with
right.
having people be so far away from us and not being able to see people in person, and then there were so many just like political things that have been going on. I feel like we've just like lost so many communities along the way, and it's just hard, especially from me growing up in an evangelical background. It's hard to think about like I still love so many of those people, but I still have such a hard time with them sometimes, and it's hard when you feel like you want to be part of a community, but you can't be your fully yourself in that community too.
Yes,
And that
I
also
think that
creates like
is,
other barriers.
yes, I think that is really difficult. And that, I mean, certainly that was my family issue where it was like, well, I can't be myself. And the, I mean, for them, it was just like, stop being such a troublemaker. Like, it,
Yeah.
it's easy to be in community with us, just stop being yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of like me slowly dying. So it's not great for me. I understand
Yeah.
it works for you, but I mean, there were so many pieces of myself that I even still find that I'm reclaiming that I just let go of to exist in that environment.
Yeah.
And the cost was too high. Eventually, the cost was too high.
It's just, it's so hard because you want to be able to bring your full identity into those places, and it's really hard when you can't. And I think we've even regressed into a little bit of that over the last couple of years, and it's sad for me to see that because I'm like, I feel like there's so many like positive things about like I feel like we're heading towards a place where we can be more of ourselves, and like it just seems like we're just kind of regressing back into that, and just it's just kind of heartbreaking.
It is. I think it's hard you when you feel that people aren't interested in the
Yeah,
whole you. And I think we see that in this political landscape. This
it is
feeling
hard.
of like, oh, you don't want things to be complex, but things
Yeah.
are. We're complex.
I,
Yeah.
I think we just get so like afraid, and I think that was one of the things that like I wanted to get in this poem is that we get, and from my experiences, we get so afraid of like things that aren't black and white. We get so afraid of things that aren't one way or the other, and there's really no embracing of the complexity of human nature and how complex every day that we live is, and how complex our world is, and how maybe we need to give each other more grace. But there's such an unwillingness to be there for people in those places and think about giving people more grace because we're just like, no, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. And I feel like we're really like doing ourselves a disservice because it leads to we can't be honest with other people, and it does other people a disservice too because then they can't really be honest about who they are with like people like us too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good for anyone.
Yeah,
That's the
doesn't help anyone.
reality. No, it's
Yeah,
not. But I I feel like I just, like I said at the beginning, like I just have to kind of cleave to hope and love, and like that matters in my daily life and in the larger realm. Like makes me feel good. Like
yeah,
this morning, I started off my day just texting a bunch of people that I love them
yeah,
because that was something I could do, and I do love them. Um,
yeah,
and it's interesting you talk about community because I've seen my communities change so much over the course of my life, and
yeah,
um, I'm grateful for the communities I'm a part of where I do feel safe being myself, and and having that wholeness treated like a gift instead of a burden.
Yeah.
And I've been in families and communities where I felt like, oh, I'm such a thing for them to deal with.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's just like the worst
oh,
feeling.
like, oh, I'm so much.
Yeah.
How can they deal with me? I'm too much,
Yeah.
and now it's like, oh, no, I was just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm so happy you've been able to find some of those places because I
yeah,
feel like it's so hard
it is.
sometimes, and it
It's
takes like
hard.
years. I
It
think
does.
like I feel like I've talked to a lot of people who are older than me.
I'm
And yeah,
sorry. It does.
like I've talked to
But I think that the
older
more you
people
are
in my
yourself, the
family.
more you find those people. I truly
Oh
believe that.
yeah, I think it's just
But
like sometimes
what were you saying?
I feel like sometimes it's hard because I'm like younger and I'm like, oh, I want this to happen immediately. And like I talk to like people who are my friends who are older and like people in my family, and they're like, it just takes a while sometimes. Like there's no substitute for just waiting, and it's just a process.
It is a process. And I think it's also like, spending less time with the people who don't see us and appreciate us and giving them not
Yes.
less grace. Like I'm giving them grace, but I don't need to think like, what do I need to change about me to make this person love me?
Yes.
Which I did a lot of that, which is
So it's,
not the best use of time.
yeah, and it's really hard mindset to break out of sometimes too.
It is. It is. Especially if you've been doing it to survive,
Yes.
so you keep thinking, oh, I got to keep doing this. Like, this is how I got where I am.
Yeah.
So I got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Like
oh,
just keep doing whatever works,
yeah.
even if it's not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
just didn't even really think I was like a people pleaser at all because I've said this many
Oh
times,
yeah.
but because so many people like were not pleased with me, like at
Yeah.
all. So I just assumed, well, I can't be a people pleaser, but I still
Yeah.
was. I still was.
You can still be.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, but
Yeah.
okay, good to know.
Yes.
So what was the experience like writing this poem? Is this the one you wrote with Grace, or did you change it at all, or what was it like for you writing the poem?
This actually was not the one that I wrote with
Okay.
Grace. I wrote a kind of a different one with Grace that was focused on. It was still focused on home, and it was still focused on my relationship with like a little bit of faith, but like not
Yeah.
explicitly. And I kind of felt like I don't know. I wrote this. I was working on that last week, and I was like, it just wasn't really feeling right. And I was like,
Hmm.
I don't think this is going to take me really where I want to go. And so I started like I think one night at like 2 a.m. I just like sat up and I wrote this entire poem basically. And I think it was just kind of like being in like election season and thinking about everything that's been happening in the past. And I'm living in a different place now. I'm from Indiana, but
Hmm.
I'm in North Carolina for grad school now. And so kind of like thinking
Hmm.
through all of that and thinking through like what does home mean for me and what does it look like when I think this is the longest time that I've been away from home. And so like how will
Yeah.
it be different when I go back home for Christmas and like what will that look like and what will all those feelings be? And so I feel like I like the poem that I wrote for Grace, but I feel like I kind of needed to. I felt like for myself, I needed to go back and like do a little bit more work on it.
I think that's what's so one of the most powerful things about writing. Like it actually feels right or doesn't. Like it sits in
Yes.
you differently. And it's like, oh, this feels right. And especially I think when you
Yeah.
know you're going to be reading it out loud, you really want it to feel right.
Yes. Yeah. You want it
Because
to feel
it's
right. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
because it's
very
just like
essential. Yeah.
yeah. So that's part of the reason I read all my writing out loud. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in my room, well, not my room, I don't have a room for writing, but I'm in the house,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'll read stuff out loud, and yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's like you can feel it
Oh yeah.
viscerally.
It's
Mhm.
kind of like beautiful because I've never written a poem actually. Like this is like pretty much like one of the first poems I've ever written. I
Yeah,
usually write like a lot of creative nonfiction, and so it's kind of fun to play around with this genre a little bit and like think about how how performing it and reading it adds like a different level
for
to
sure.
what the writing is. Because if you're writing creative nonfiction, it's kind of just like standing out there on its own. You're maybe like doing it in a workshop or something, or you're sending it like through your Substack or something like that. But you're not really
Yeah.
like reading it in front of people. And I think I was kind of inspired by the writers conference that I did this summer, and some of the poets who came were just so amazing, and like the way that they read their poetry
Yeah.
and how powerful it was,
Yeah.
and the energy that they put into it. Like there were the words on the
Mhm.
pages, and there was everything that they gave to it when they read it too. It was just so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yes, I've had a couple of those on here where it's like a whole, like you feel like it's adding a whole another layer of text almost, where
Yeah,
the way they read it is so expressive. Like
it's just
I,
amazing.
I'm not, I'm not that expressive. I do try
Yeah,
to
I
add
know.
some expression, but it's not like that. And I really appreciate it. And you see,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, it's part of the form, the way that
Yeah.
they
It's so
perform,
exciting
the
to
way
like,
they read it.
I have some friends who are poets. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so exciting to like hear them read their work because they're just like so passionate about it. And it just like, it's really inspiring to me because I feel like poetry is like very much not my form. And like I've tried a little bit, but like it's just not something that I feel super comfortable in. And I'm kind of working on that. But it's so inspiring to me, even in my other writing, to like hear them read their work and how passionate they are about it. And it kind of inspires me to like go back and write other things, even if it's not poetry.
Yeah, I think it's really great to play with different forms, and
Oh, yeah.
it's it all there's I nothing's wasted, you know. Like I Janine Ouellette joined me here, I don't know, a couple years ago, and we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about that, and she said it, and it's really stuck with me. Like nothing is wasted because I've been writing a long time, and a lot of
Yeah.
stuff has not gotten out there, but it's still in me. I still did it,
Yeah.
and that mattered. And it does show up in different places. And because I
Oh,
think
yeah.
sometimes we can get, concerned with the capitalist construct of like, we
Yes.
need to publish, we need
Has
to
to be
sell it, we
productive.
need to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, no. And especially, I
Yeah.
think with this election, I'm feeling more and more like, oh, all of these constructs, I'm not,
Yeah.
no, these are
Sometimes it's just
not serving me.
important to just do the work
Yeah,
just for
it is.
yourself.
It is for sure.
It's just kind of, it's very
And
healing.
it is. I mean, that's what's I mean, I took a break from writing when I had kids because I
Oh,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
burned out, and I was happy to stop.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I had nothing left to say because I think I had been spending so much time worrying about the home it would find.
Yeah.
And that's not it doesn't like now I try really hard to protect the writing because that's what's
Yeah.
meaningful to me. I hope it finds a home. I hope it finds an audience, obviously. But
Yeah.
if I can't protect the writing, it doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's so joyful to get to share with other people, but I also feel like
Yes.
the process is what I love so much of just like sitting down at my computer and just like really writing it and working through things and
Yeah.
thinking about like what do I want to say?
Yeah. I've learned so much about myself through writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so self-revealing, and I
Yeah.
love even like just sitting down and journaling every once in a while too, because I think that's such a great practice. And I feel like sometimes I take things from my journal and I use it in my other parts of my writing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I write this and I'm like, oh wow, that's actually really good. Like I should use this in an essay that I'm writing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Um, any other last thoughts, Seb? This has been actually really lovely. I'm so glad that we had
Yeah,
scheduled
thank
this
you.
for this day because,
This has been wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to open this, but then I
Yeah.
just started thinking about how meaningful this series is to me and how those
Yeah.
are kind of the things that keep you going.
They do, yeah. It's so great to do this. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been
Oh, well,
lovely
I'm
to
so
talk to
glad.
you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you put yourself out there because I actually would really love to have younger people on here, but I think lots of
Yeah.
times younger people feel like, the ageism, it's the flip side of ageism, like
Oh yeah.
that they don't have as much to say or people aren't as interested in it or whatever. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
no, I'm interested. And
I have one of my
I
friends right now who's actually watching, and they're an amazing poet. So
well, you
I'll put
should
them I'll
join
put
the
them in touch
amazing
with you.
poet.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
please do. I
I'll
would
put them
love
in touch
that.
with you.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you put yourself out there because I know that's not a small thing.
Yes.
And
I
good
was a
for
little
you.
terrified, but
Well,
but
I'm
that's been
very
so
nice.
wonderful.
And you have to know that Grace is
Oh
I
yes.
mean, like she's not gonna send you to someone who's gonna be
Oh,
rude.
totally not. Oh yeah. Yes.
Like
This
that's
was such a great experience.
oh good, I'm so glad. I mean,
Yes.
and that's the thing, like that means a lot to me and I just you kind of have to hold on to those things.
Oh yes.
Um it's the little things. It's one
It
step
is
at
the
a
little
time.
things. It's the things that
Um
get us through.
it's true. So
Yes.
well thank you so much, Seb.
Yeah.
I
Thank you,
really
Allison.
appreciate your time and your words.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so good to talk to
Okay.
you.
Same. Okay. Bye.
Bye.